The movie opens with a young woman named Joy who has just arrived in South Korea. Despite being Korean, she was born and raised in the United States. So, a few months ago, she began attending online classes to better understand her Korean culture. During this time, she met and grew close to her instructor, Mrs. Park. When the latter learned that Joy was visiting Korea for 10 days, she immediately invited her to stay at her house. In the next scene, Joy finally meets Mrs. Park, who brings her home and introduces her to her husband and young son. When our heroine arrives in her new room, the first thing she does is hang a poster of a celebrity named Kino. He's a member of the popular K-pop group Pentagon, and she admires him greatly. That evening, as Joy comes out of the shower, she hears someone trying to enter the room. She tries to hold the door, but a handsome guy forces his way inside. This makes her very nervous and she begins screaming, but he claims that this room is his. At that moment, Mr. Park arrives and kicks the guy, assuming he's an invader. But it turns out to be Yo-won, the eldest son of Mr. and Mrs. Park. Not only that, he's also a well-known member of the popular Pentagon group. He's furious with his parents for letting her stay in his room without his permission. Mom then explains that she had no idea he was coming home. He then urges his parents to send her away, but they assert she's only there for 10 days. So he reluctantly decides to sleep on the couch for now. Yo-won is furious to see Kino's picture in his room, but Joy claims that she's a big fan and refuses to remove it. The following morning, she prepares a delicious meal for Yo-won and his brother. She takes the opportunity to thank him for allowing her to stay. However, he does not appreciate her gesture and is quite rude to her. Afterward, he summons her and asks her to bring him a frappe and gives her specific instructions on the ingredients. While returning with the frappe, she becomes curious and decides to try it. She then takes a few sips before entering, assuming Yo-won won't notice. Later, she hands him the drink, unaware that she has a cream mustache on her face. He notices this and proceeds to wipe her face while scolding her for drinking his frappe. They then get so close that her heart nearly bursts with nervousness. Just then, Yo-won's two best friends, Jimin and Siwon, show up at the house. They're shocked to see their best friend with a girl and misinterpret the situation, but he clarifies that she's just a guest in his house. Following this, the four begin playing drinking games. During this time, Joy and Siwon are getting along very well, and it seems like the other two are jealous. After finishing all their drinks, Joy and Siwon head to the store to buy more. On the way, he discloses that he's a national Taekwondo champion with numerous gold medals. Impressed, she asks him to teach her Taekwondo in his free time, and he agrees. Later, after a fun night, the friends decide to return home. Joy excitedly bids them farewell, and Siwon exchanges flirty glances with her. Jimin notices this and accuses him of flirting, but he denies it. She then tries to grab his hand, but he pulls it away. Turns out, during their high school years, both Siwon and Yo-won had a crush on Jimin, but none of them acted on their feelings, so they're still friends. Days later, Joy practices Taekwondo with Siwon, and afterward, they go grab a bite to eat. During this time, she gets a call from Yo-won. He acts cocky as usual and asks her to bring him a coffee. However, she tells him she's busy having lunch with Siwon right now. This leaves our hero in a jealous silence. On their way home, Joy informs Siwon that she's about to take a scholarship exam at the Korean institution, and if accepted, she'll be able to live there. Siwon is genuinely excited for her and wishes her all the best. When they arrive home, he notices the eyelashes on her face and tries to remove them. But as he's about to do so, Yo-won spots them and misunderstands the situation. Thinking they're about to kiss, he angrily sends his friend away. After this, the two have dinner together. While eating, our heroine says that she really likes the food, and our hero responds by saying that he likes her. This causes an awkward moment between the two, and Yo-won spills his food out of nervousness. Joy removes his shirt to clean it, but just then his little brother arrives and misinterprets the situation. So the two have to bribe the boy with Pokemon stickers so that he won't tell the parents. The following day, Jimin is approached by her boss, who's the head editor of a news agency. She inquires if Jimin is aware that the prominent Taekwondoan Siwon and K-pop idol Yo-won are best friends. However, the latter pretends to be unaware and denies knowing them. Her boss then reveals that she heard they used to like the same girl in high school. Jimin tries to ignore the conversation, but her boss shows her a picture of the three of them together. When asked who she likes the most, Jimin leaves without saying anything. Meanwhile, Joy goes to eat with the boys and the situation between them is very tense. So, Siwon asks Yo-won to come to the gym the next day because he needs to resolve some issues. The next afternoon, the two guys meet at the gym and they practice Taekwondo, and Siwon brutally beats him. After the fight, Yo-won asks him to quit worrying about him and pursue Jimin. He's mad because Siwon gave up his love for his sake. The latter clarifies that he simply wanted his best friend to be happy and couldn't pursue her. At that moment, Jimin shows up and scolds Siwon for beating up his friend. She then goes to check up on Yeowon, but he gets mad at her and tells her not to treat him like a baby. Moments later, Joy also shows up and senses the tension in the air. She takes Yeowon away and tells him to go to the hospital. He says it's unnecessary and all he wants to do is be with her. He then takes her hand and they share a very sweet moment. Unbeknownst to them, someone is secretly taking their pictures from afar. Elsewhere, Jimin scolds Siwon for fighting with his best friend. She wants him to apologize and make amends right away. Surprisingly, he gets emotional and apologizes for not accepting her love and keeping her waiting all these years. Siwon is stunned to hear this, but she finally understands his painful predicament. This bridges the gap between the two, and they end up sharing a beautiful kiss. The next day, Joy and Yeowon dress traditionally and attend a cultural fair where they have a great time. Afterward, they relax in a field and she reveals her admiration for Kino and the K-pop group. She asks him to introduce her to Kino, but he declines. To convince him, she offers to show the choreography of their latest song and starts dancing. Her moves are horrible, so our hero makes fun of her and teaches her step by step. That night in her room, Joy is feeling restless and unable to sleep. So she gets up and goes to the living room where Yeowon is sleeping. When she approaches him, he suddenly gets up and kisses her. Our girl doesn't resist and kisses him back. In the following days, Jimin and Siwon go on dates and are overjoyed that they are finally together after so many years. However, problems arrive when she discovers that her boss is spying on her. She angrily confronts her boss, but the latter counters by displaying pictures of her with Siwon. She then threatens to publish an article about them, which could damage his reputation. Jimin begs her not to publish anything about her boyfriend, so she promises to do anything in return. The following day, our hero receives a call from his manager informing him that an article about him has been published. Turns out, Jimin has written an article about the romance between him and Joy. The news has immediately spread through the internet and is a trending topic. His manager asks whether he should block the dating scandal, but Yeowon refuses and says he will take care of it himself. In the meantime, Joy is on her way home when she's confronted by several die-hard fans of Yeowon. They question why she's living with him and accuse her of distracting him from his music. She begs them to leave her alone, but they continue questioning her and even try to attack her. Fortunately, Siwon arrives at that moment and the girls run away when they see him. Realizing that she can't stay here any longer, she packs her belongings and spends the night at Siwon's gym. He comforts her and asks her to reach out to Yeowon, but she refuses, claiming she's going to leave Korea anyway. Later that night, Yeowon approaches Jimin outside her home and asks her why she wrote the article. She refuses to give him a proper explanation and claims that she was just doing her job. He states that he's not angry and just wants some clarification from her, but she refuses to talk with him and leaves. In the next scene, Yeowon is watching videos of him dancing with Joy. He recalls each and every moment spent with her, which makes him emotional. He then calls her several times, but she doesn't answer. Frustrated at the current situation, he finally decides to take action. The next morning, Yeowon arrives at Jimin's news station for an interview. There, he publicly admits that Joy is his girlfriend and that he loves her a lot. He then asks his fans not to bully her or speak negatively about her. Meanwhile, Joy is at a train station ready to leave when she sees the interview on television. This makes her very happy and she immediately rushes to see him. Soon after, they meet outside his house looking happy and they greet each other with a simple hello. The scene then shifts to a few weeks later where we see Siwon and Jimin still together, and he has won more gold medals. At one point, they discuss Yeowon, and we learn that after the dating scandal, he lost popularity and took a break from the K-pop group. Meanwhile, Joy has returned to the United States. She misses Yeowon a lot, and the memories she shared with him. Days later, Joy discovers that she's passed the exam and has been awarded a scholarship at a prominent Korean university. She excitedly returns to Korea and arrives at Mrs. Park's house where she struggles to drag her suitcase. At that moment, a handsome guy approaches her and offers to help with her luggage. When she sees him, she's excited to find out that it's her favorite celebrity, Kino. Surprisingly, he knows her name and greets her pleasantly. Just then, Yeowon also shows up and is appalled to see them shaking hands. He asks Kino to get away from his girlfriend, and with this, the story comes to an end.